What's up, everybody? Welcome to the very first episode of Digital Downtime, the podcast that talks everything gaming. My name is Prince Gill, aka Gilly, aka a bunch of other nicknames. I've been gaming since I was about 2 or 3 years old. Currently, I'm 29, so yeah, we've been gaming for a little while, so I decided, hey, why not make a podcast about it? In today's very first episode, we'll be discussing the Game Award nominees for 2023, which games deserved it, which games didn't deserve it, which games got omitted. Obviously, the bigger focus is going to be on the Game of the Year nominees, so we'll have a thorough discussion about that. Following that, we will have a segment called Have You Played This? In this segment, which will be every week, we will be exploring, kind of games that are hidden gems, diamonds in the rough sort of thing. So stay tuned for that. But I hope you sit back, relax, and enjoy. And thank you for joining me on my very first episode. All right, Game of the Year 2023. Jeff Keighley and his committee team obviously had their work cut out for them this year. What a year. And if you're not on board with that as a gamer, you're clearly not expanding your horizons, trying different things out, maybe on a single console. But whatever the case might be, it's been a wild year. So the 6 games that were chosen: Alan Wake 2 by Remedy, Baldur's Gate 3 by Larian Studios, Marvel's Spider-Man 2 Insomniac Games, Resident Evil 4 Capcom, and then Super Mario Bros. Wonder and The Legend of Zelda Tears of the Kingdom, both by Nintendo. So let's first off start with Alan Wake 2, because when this game's release date got announced, I told people, hey, Alan Wake 2 is going to be a Game of the Year type of game. People were like, nah, man, it's Remedy's first time in survival horror. The year is too stacked, blah, blah, blah. What did I tell y'all motherfuckers, man? Listen, Remedy's been doing their thing for a while. Their last game, Control, was also nominated for Game of the Year back in 2019. Quantum Break was an interesting game. Still had some interesting ideas. Obviously, the original Alan Wake. We have Max Payne 1 and 2. Like, Remedy knows what they're doing, man. And from what I've seen and heard about the game, I have not personally played it yet. But to me, Game of the Year is sort of something that pushes the medium forward. And Alan Wake 2, from a storytelling perspective, seems exactly that. In terms of blending, real life cinematography with in-game cutscenes, with the narrative between both perspectives, between the cop and Alan Wake himself. I think it provides some very interesting narrating, and obviously I saw the iconic scene. That's about the only spoiler I got from the game, with the music set piece. I'm gonna keep it at that. And obviously the gameplay, very current, RE2 remake forward kind of survival horror, over the shoulder third person type. But it looks good. Obviously it sounds good. The storytelling is on another level. So I'm not surprised Alan Wake 2 is nominated. And honestly, it's one of my bets to win. I doubt it will. But out of these 6 games, I have 3 bets. Alan Wake 2 is one of them. So I'll make sure to get to play it soon. I know on PC it's only on the Epic Game Store since they published it. But there's also a reduced digital price compared to consoles. And I just recently upgraded my rig. So we'll be picking this up very soon, and then I'll have my full thoughts on it on a later episode. Secondly, we have Baldur's Gate 3, which I'm going to say now is probably the undisputed game of the year. If anything's going to win it from these listed games, it's going to be Baldur's Gate 3. The thing about Baldur's Gate 3, like I mentioned, Game of the Year being something that pushes the medium forward. CRPGs are obviously RPGs that have been around for a while, since the 90s and whatnot. And it's definitely a genre that has a lot of love and passion behind it, dedicated fan base. And I don't think the critical reception of Baldur's Gate 3 surprised anyone. Because, if you know Larian Studios, if you played Divinity Original Sin 1 or 2, you know what they're capable of and whatnot. And if you know anything about Baldur's Gate, obviously Baldur's Gate 1 and 2, shout out to BioWare in their prime days. It's a renowned RPG. And Baldur's Gate 3 is no different. Probably have the best CRPG developer in the game getting the Baldur's Gate license, and look what they got. So the critical reception doesn't surprise me. What did surprise me is the amount of players that actually play this. The Steam charts went crazy. I don't have the numbers in front of me right now, but I swear it's close to about 500,000 concurrent players for this game around release date or that first week. You guys can obviously fact check me and prove me wrong. But the amount of players was surprising, and I'm glad it got that many amount of players, because obviously CRPGs and just RPGs in general deserve a lot of love. And the amount of love and passion the team put behind this game, the amount of polish, the amount of care, the amount of attention to detail, the gameplay that makes you think, all these intricate stories and pathways you could take. Like Alan Wake 2, this isn't a game I haven't been able to get a chance to play yet. If I want to be honest, I know this might ruin my credibility a bit, but the only game I actually have played on this list is Tears of the Kingdom. So when we get to that, we'll talk about that in more detail. But I rest assure you, I'll be playing all these games. I have a PC, I have a Switch, and I have a PS5. So I will get to it. Just give me time, please. But Baldur's Gate 3, if anything's going to win it, definitely them. And it's a big achievement, what Larian Studios have accomplished, because they're self-published, self-developed. Technically, they're not AAA developer even, so I'm surprised Baldur's Gate 3 isn't nominated for Best Independent Game. We'll get to that category in a bit, though. But, yeah, if anything's going to win it, it's that, I think. Or I hope so. Third game on the list, Marvel Spider-Man 2. To me, this was a game I was supposed to get day one, no-brainer. But after seeing more about it, obviously, I held off for a bit, and I think I will still get it soon. I don't see the game coming down for any Black Friday deals or Boxing Day deals here in Canada. Maybe it will, and I'd be surprised. Just the only reason I didn't get it day one is just because, obviously, it's very similar to the first game, but, before you come attacking my throat, obviously sequels built upon the original. But they took the original Spider-Man game and they took Miles Morales and they kind of meshed it together. Obviously, we have an expanded New York, which means it's the previous map but expanded upon, right? Correct me if I'm wrong. They added Brooklyn and a few other districts, yes. But obviously, Insomniac Games are Sony's, PlayStation's heavy hand right now. If you look at what they've done for the PS5 so far, they obviously did the Spider-Man Remastered and Miles Morales, and they did Ratchet and Clank, and man, Ratchet and Clank Rift Apart. Sorry, I'll pull up the name here, but you know what I'm talking about. Such a phenomenal game. It is Rift Apart, so I was right. Ratchet and Clank Rift Apart was so amazing. And, I did enjoy Miles Morales as well. Then I played the original Spider-Man on PS4. But nevertheless, Insomniac Games have been able to master this PS5 hardware, PS4 hardware. I mean, they've been just mastering PlayStation for a long time now. And obviously, they deserve everything to get to them. Obviously, if you love this game, you love it. If you're going to hate on it because it's being too similar, you're going to hate on it. But nevertheless, they expanded upon what made the original Spider-Man Miles Morales great. And they made this, kick-ass superhero game. Obviously, the web slinging around the city is like the most fun part, the most unique part about these games. The fluidity of it all, the fact that it's smooth, it's stable, it's 60 frames. You can switch between the protagonists whenever you want, which I think is super cool on the fly. Obviously, some of the missions are mission specific to either Peter or Miles. But regardless, it's just a huge love project. Obviously, any fans of Spider-Man or superhero games or a fan of the Batman Arkham games was going to enjoy this. So huge shout out to Insomniac for keep doing what they're doing, for being PlayStation's main dev, really. Just keep pushing these things out. I'm excited for them that their next game is going to be the Wolverine, because we will be getting another Marvel game produced by Insomniac Games. But it'll be something different, and it'll be interesting to see how they tackle Wolverine compared to Spider-Man. But everything they've been doing with Spider-Man, obviously they've been nailing out the park. So, glad to see it. Just don't think it's going to win it. Next, we have Resident Evil 4 by Capcom. And the immediate response I saw to this on Twitter, or X, sorry. And you know how gamers go, is saying our remakes don't deserve to be Game of the Year contenders. And that's kind of an interesting conversation to have, because I think remakes very well so can be Game of the Year contenders, depending on how much they uplift the game. And I argued this back even in 2019, when Resident Evil 2 Remake didn't get nominated. And the reason I reference back to Resident Evil 2 Remake is because I felt like that was the remake to create the blueprint for future remakes, because they didn't just like touch up the graphics and, you know, release it like how Capcom did RE1. They took RE2, they gave it this crazy, you know, visual overhaul as expected, because the RE engine is nuts. But they completely changed the way the game plays. You know, they made it over the shoulder, third person, and everything from just the visual design to the audio design, to, you know, all the cutscenes redone and the voice acting and just the atmosphere of it. Getting to play it through as Claire and Leon, and then you play as, you know, the little girl, I'm forgetting her name, in Claire's part, and then, you know, Ada during Leon's playthrough. And then just, you know, all that added together, I think was kind of the blueprint of like, okay, this is how you're supposed to remake a game. It's almost like a reimagining, right? And obviously they dropped the ball a bit when they did the RE3 one. But I think with RE4, they did it again, where the game just feels so fresh and brand new. And, you know, obviously the original RE4 is such a legendary title. And it's such an influential title, not just to survival horror, but just the third person genre in general. With, you know, what the game was for that time era back in 05. And I always argued that Resident Evil 4 and then Gears of War in 2006 following it, both games are detrimental to the third person shooter genre, and I'll always stand by that. So, you know, I think very much so it deserves to be the nod here. Obviously we're going to discuss about games that got omitted, that some people thought maybe should have took place of it, right? But like I said, in terms of pushing the medium forward, you took it already classic and added more to it, modernized it, and this is the result you get. And obviously, you know, it started off 2023 with the Big Bang. We had RE4 and rightfully so the Dead Space remake as well. Obviously, another great one to kind of kickstart off the year. So those are my thoughts on that. Like, again, I don't think this is one of my picks, like I said, to win. So far, it's Alan Wake 2 and Baldur's Gate 3. But nevertheless, I think the conversation for remakes should be there, you know, and when they actually, you know, try to reimagine or reinvent the game. Obviously, the discussions to be had with like how Naughty Dog remade Last of Us 1, and I heard reports today that they're remaking Last of Us 2 for the PS5. But I think I'm going to share that Naughty Dog conversation for a future episode, because I have a lot to say about them. I really do. Coming from someone who highly respects them, and, you know, that's why I keep referring to Insomniac as PlayStation's main powerhouse now, because I don't think it's Naughty Dog anymore, just in terms of what they've been outputting for the PS5 as of late. But like I said, that's a conversation for another episode. But RE4 deserves to be here for sure. And then the last two games on the list are both Nintendo, and it doesn't surprise me. The first one is Super Mario Bros. Wonder, and I'll be picking this up soon. I think, you know, Nintendo offers those little voucher things where you can, get 2 games for like whatever the price is. Canadian, obviously, it's cheaper than like $80 each or whatever the case may be. I think I'm gonna be using it. Last time I used it, I got Tears of the Kingdom and Xenoblade Chronicles. I think I'm gonna pick up another voucher and pick up Super Mario Bros. Wonder and the Super Mario RPG remake that just came out. But nevertheless, that's not talking about Super Mario Bros. Wonder being a Game of the Year nominee. Everything I've seen about this game looks magnificent, fantastic. Obviously, 2D Mario games were kind of not reinventing the wheel or becoming too samey for the past decade. Obviously, on the 3D front, I thought Odyssey is possibly maybe the best 3D Mario game. Obviously, that's going to spark a lot of conversations. Because obviously, the beloved one is always going to be Mario 64. There's, obviously Galaxy 1 and 2 that are also great. Not great, fantastic to be frank. But I thought Odyssey was really special. It's kind of ironic to me because in 2017, you had both Mario Odyssey and Breath of the Wild nominated for Game of the Year. And now you fast forward to 2023. Now we have another Mario game, a 2D platformer this time, and Legend of Zelda Tears of the Kingdom nominated. So that was the Switch's first year in 2017. And then now 6 years later, if Nintendo is planning to release new hardware for 2024, they're definitely going out 2023 with the bang. And I think what makes Super Mario Bros. Wonder super cool is obviously the level design is top notch as you expect from Nintendo in a 2D Mario game. But it's the wonder modes, right? When the game goes like on an LSD trip, and the fact that they add new power ups such as like becoming an elephant and whatnot. I think it's just the little things Nintendo always does with these long lasting franchises, whether it be Zelda or it be Mario or it be like Metroid or Mario Kart. Obviously these are long running franchises, but it's these little things that they do, and I think they experimented enough with this game to finally make something that pushed the medium forward, that pushed 2D Mario to something new. And then obviously I think they took a note from Celeste's handbook. How Celeste had like A, B, C sides. I know this game has something similar where there's like tougher challenges, tougher variations of same levels and whatnot. So obviously there's always going to be room for casual gamer to play 2D Mario, but there's enough here for a hardcore gamer who really wants that, platforming challenge here to be accessible. And as much as I love 3D platformers, I think 2D platforming really offers that challenge. As long as you have the level design to back it up, to really make things challenging and to make things very satisfying. Celeste was the same way, very satisfying to beat those levels. And I know while Cuphead is more like a running gun 2D platformer, still, it's just because it's in that 2D kind of space. It just makes them completing them so much better. So shout out to Nintendo for doing something crazy with the 2D Mario franchise and doing something in the past decade to really push it forward. So another well-deserved one, I think. And that brings us to Legend of Zelda Tears of the Kingdom. Now, as much as praise I gave to Wonder, I still need to play it. My third pick is going to go to Legend of Zelda Tears of the Kingdom. So we have Alan Wake 2, Baldur's Gate 3, and Tears of the Kingdom. And out of those three, I think it's going to be Baldur's Gate 3. We'll see. The reason I gave it to Tears of the Kingdom because... how should I describe Tears of the Kingdom? Tears of the Kingdom is like... once you play Tears of the Kingdom, it's so hard to go back to Breath of the Wild. But at the same time, if you played Breath of the Wild, you've kind of played Tears of the Kingdom. And I know that doesn't make a lot of sense, but hear me out. So, Tears of the Kingdom is like Breath of the Wild, but with every quality of life upgrade you would want to the gameplay. Now, in terms of visuals, I'm going to be just straight up here. I don't think much has really changed since Breath of the Wild. And obviously, the Switch hardware is outdated. Doesn't mean the game looks bad or anything. It's just in terms of the graphic impression and how the world looks, and obviously the frames, and how they can dip, and obviously it's not steady 30 and whatnot. Very similar to Breath of the Wild. Obviously the music and whatnot, very similar as well. But what makes Tears of the Kingdom a better game? Well, like, a sequel is supposed to improve on the previous game. So what it improves on is Breath of the Wild is just the gameplay. And the creativity of the gameplay is what I think sets sets Tears of the Kingdom above it, because without that creativity, this game would not have done well, because it's too similar to Breath of the Wild in terms of the grand scheme of things. In terms of story, this time you get 4 traditional temples instead of, the 4 divine beasts. Thank God for that. But, still, like, each element you got to bring down, then you got to fight Ganon, and et cetera, right? You get the drift. But the fact that you can use the abilities to fuse any weapon you want, do all these wild combinations, put together pieces so you can go from point A to point B, put together things so you can, like, do a shrine, put together things so you can traverse this huge open world, and every player might do it differently, man. To cross a river, you might build a raft with just like a rock and just ship over there, or you might build an intricate raft with some fans on it. You might even just like shoot yourself up somehow and just like glide over, like, what I mean. The creativity is endless there, and obviously you use all these abilities, right? Whether it's like recall, or it's fuse, or it's ultra hand, or it's I think it's called upheaval. I forget, I'm forgetting the name of it, where you can like jump through port through the walls by looking up, right? So like that makes vertical traversing so much better, and exploration so much better. So the fact that they have all that in there, and the fact that they have like the mainland, the depths, and the sky, pieces and temples and whatnot, I think adds a lot more to the gameplay overall. But aside from that, obviously that's a lot added to the gameplay front. But aside from that, like, the overall feel of it's still very similar to Breath of the Wild, right? So I think if you weren't a fan of Breath of the Wild, you may not be a fan of Tears of the Kingdom. However, if you're a fan of the Breath of the Wild, you're probably gonna like this. And I know there's some people that skipped out on Breath of the Wild, but I know some people that skipped Breath of the Wild and they got to play Tears of the Kingdom, and really you're playing the superior version because of those gameplay updates and enhancements. So I think for those reasons alone, and obviously the impact The Legend of Zelda has now on Nintendo as a whole, Breath of the Wild kind of changed the park for them. Obviously Zelda's legendary series always been critically received well, but I think obviously Breath of the Wild just shot up what the Switch is in terms of sales and whatnot, and then Tears of the Kingdom, what they're saying, 20 mil units in 4 months, which is wild. That's why I'm gonna have my pick on this one. But like I said, all 6, it's a solid list for Game of the Year. But I'm gonna go with Baldur's Gate 3 overall. So obviously these are the games nominated, but obviously there's some games omitted, and it's been a crazy year, right? And obviously some people are mad that Starfield wasn't nominated. Xbox's biggest release. Starfield shouldn't have been nominated. That's a game I actually played from start to finish, and actually no-lifed for a while. I think I put close to 50 hours on that game in about 2 weeks, because it did hook me. Obviously it being on the Game Pass helps, so I just got 1 month of Game Pass and hopped onto it. And I was still unemployed, so I ran through this game. I did a shit ton of side quests. I did all 4 faction quest lines, obviously the main story, and a lot of other things. And it's just not a game that deserves Game of the Year nomination. And I'm not hating on it. I think it's a good game. I just don't think it is what Xbox and Bethesda needed to, like, home run or hit out of the park, considering the stiff competition this year. If I were to give it a rating, I'd probably give it like a 7, 7.5 if I really want to be generous. And it's just simply because it's just not enough. The the game has too many menus, too many loading screens, and because they focused on making it this big, grand game, the fact that you have to use these menus to just like go from planet to planet, place to place, makes it feel minimal. Makes it actually feel more minuscule in nature, if that makes sense. Like, they went for grand, but it actually feels more little than all their previous games because of that reason. And don't lie to me, man. You guys are fast traveling everywhere. Okay, that's just how it works in that game. You're not actually flying to every fucking place, so stop lying. So I think just because of that alone, the scale of it feels so little compared to every Bethesda game, even though it's supposed to be the grandest. It just doesn't make sense to me on how that's exciting, right? Obviously, the space exploration was supposed to be such a huge part of the game, and it isn't because it's all through menus and just loading screens and fast travels. And that's not knocking the game completely. Obviously, I'm still giving it 7.5, because surprisingly, it ran really well on PC. So you got to give it nods for that because hey, never know nowadays with AAA devs and PC games. Um, and it had its typical Bethesda glitch and bugs, but not as many as I was expecting, which is also great. And yeah, some of those faction storylines were actually a lot of fun. I think I liked. Oh no, I'm forgetting the names of it now. The Ryujin, right? I think was it what it was. Had some interesting stuff in it. Obviously, the Crimson Pirates or Crimson Fleet double agent stuff was fun. Uh, the Freestar Collective was okay, but you get some good rewards of it. But I really did enjoy the Vanguard one, with the Terramorphs and stuff like that. Very, very cool there. So I think the faction storylines are fun. I think some of the side quests are very cool as well. Obviously the customization on the ship and whatnot is dope too. And, the weapons and stuff are kind of fun. Obviously the game gets a bonus point just for having a Adoring Fan in it. And I like how, like, the traits you pick kind of actually play into the game. But the main story to me just kind of was bland. It was repetitive. You just get artifacts over and over. And without spoiling too much, the new game plus system of the game isn't revolutionary enough or like, oh my god, enough in terms of a narrative standpoint to be like, wow, they did something really crazy. So I think because of the lack of space exploration in a kind of mid main storyline, and I know Bethesda games aren't always about the main storyline. Okay, Prince, haha, what a shitty fucking take. Before you come on my throats, I know it's not the main point of the fucking Bethesda games, but man, the main storylines are still enjoyable. It was enjoyable in Oblivion. It was enjoyable in Skyrim. The main storyline was enjoyable in Fallout 3, even 4. And it was really enjoyable in New Vegas. And I know that's not a Bethesda game, but still, you get my drift. So, don't give me that shit, alright? So because of that, that's why Starfield is not getting nominated for Game of the Year. Deal with it. Diablo 4 is another big one. I don't have much to say about it other than I played the beta. I thought it was fun. The actual game came out. I did not get it. Obviously, Blizzard, in typical fashion, made some updates and whatnot that people weren't happy with. Not happy with the post game and whatnot. Okay? If there's something more the viewers can add to, like why Diablo 4 should be Game of the Year, by all means, go for it. Typically, these ARPGs don't get that nod. But that's what I have to say about that. Maybe I'll pick up Diablo 4 in the future, when it's cheaper and stuff. I would still like to play through it. I think it'll be fun for like a first run sort of thing, But that was one that was obviously noticeably omitted. Another one is Final Fantasy 16. I think Final Fantasy 16 could have been here instead of maybe Spider-Man 2 or the RE4 remake. Maybe. But then, we already got a lot of people saying that Jeff is just a Nintendo fanboy, Sony fanboy. So imagine if he had Marvel Spider-Man 2, FF16, Wonder, and Tears of the Kingdom, 2 Nintendo exclusives and 2 Sony exclusives, along with Alan Wake 2 and Baldur's Gate 3. People would be really mad, especially the Xbox fanboys. And that's not a shot at Xbox fanboys. I think console fanboys in general are just stupid. But that would have been funny. I haven't got a chance to play it myself yet. Obviously, I think just from a grand scale, it just looks like an epic, like an epic tale is very grand characters and theme and large fights and whatnot. But for some reason, it just didn't get what Square Enix expected the game to get in terms of critical reception and sales and whatnot. So obviously those 3 are the biggest ones: FF16, Starfield, and Diablo 4. Obviously I had the most to say about Starfield because it is one of the new releases that I went through the most. And then there's another game, not just from the Game of the Year nominations, but just overall omitted from any category at all is Hogwarts Legacy. And obviously, I think it's because of all the controversy when the game came out. Obviously, this is not something I'm going to touch too much into detail because we kind of all know uh, the controversy surrounding Hogwarts Legacy. But nevertheless, hundreds and hundreds of devs worked on the game. And, my friends that have played it enjoy the game. I think they said they captured the Hogwarts world very cool. And I always said it would be cool to make a game kind of in that Harry Potter world, but not actually Harry Potter. And I've been saying this for years, even before Legacy was announced. And then when they announced it a while back, I was like, oh, they're actually doing it. And then it actually came out, and I was like, wow, they did it. And this is all, controversy, politics or whatever you want to call it aside. Game of the year, sure, it's been a stacked year. Definitely there was other categories that it could have been included with for sure. So sad to see that omission. But other than that, other than Starfield, Diablo 4, Final Fantasy 16, Hogwarts Legacy, maybe Dead Space Remake as well, if we're going to throw RE4 in the combo. What other games you think should have been nominated for Game of the Year? Let me know in the comments on YouTube, or DM me on Twitter, or whatever the case might be. I don't know if you can leave comments on Spotify or Apple. I don't know how podcasts work in that regard, considering it's my first episode. But however you can reach out to me. Digital Downtime Podcast at gmail.com as well. Let me know what you guys think should have been added for Game of the Year. What would you have removed? What would you kept the same? What would you have added? Please let me know. And next, we're just going to go into the remaining categories. Alright, so we're going to do the rest of the categories a little bit quicker. Obviously wanted to have a more thorough discussion about Game of the Year. The next category is Best Game Direction, and we have Alan Wake 2, Baldur's Gate 3, Spider-Man 2, Wonder, and Tears of the Kingdom. Sounding very similar. So this can be the case for many categories here. I'm going to go with Alan Wake 2 for this one. Like I said, I think it just pushes the medium forward in terms of video and audio design. It's pretty straightforward there. Next category as we load up on this page. Best Narrative. We have Alan Wake 2, Baldur's Gate 3, Cyberpunk 2077, Phantom Liberty, Final Fantasy 16, and Marvel Spider-Man 2. Now listen, I'm going to be a little biased on this one. Phantom Liberty is actually another game I just played recently. And, without getting too much into it, the original game back in 2020 for Cyberpunk was something I was thoroughly disappointed with. And not just from the bugs, glitches perspective, but just the overall narrative perspective. And, for it being, the most hyped Western RPG, and to be something so genre pushing and, groundbreaking, it really wasn't. It really just felt like a looter shooter. Obviously, you can make decisions and whatnot, but it really wasn't like that immersive, choice making, making you think kind of role playing experience I was expecting. And I decided to give Phantom Liberty a try because of all the great things I heard about it. And, it was decently priced. And let me tell you, man, for the price, you get the bang of your buck. Because I spent probably close to 20 hours on this DLC / expansion. Obviously that's for the main game. I did every gig in Dogtown. And explored about 2 endings without spoiling much. And let me tell you, man, Phantom Liberty is strong. Obviously the 2.0 update gave the game a fresh life in terms of a gameplay perspective. It's so much better with the new skill trees and whatnot. I used like a katana build, and I was just, it was a lot of fun, man. If you make a reflexes build with the katana, it's a lot of fun. But the great thing is you can play however you like with the new developed skill trees. However, the narrative on Phantom Liberty is nuts, man. I'm telling y'all, I'm not just hyping it up. Even each gig has like a story to it. Like each gig felt like a side quest. There's decisions and choices to be made at the end of those gigs. Then there's side quests that kind of build up upon those gigs. Like you do a gig, later on that same person will call you again for like, a follow up or to kind of close that storyline. I think that attention to detail is cool. But just even the main story of Phantom Liberty is awesome. I think V is better voiced act. I loved Johnny Silverhand, Keanu Reeves' role in Phantom Liberty a lot more than I loved him in the base game. I think he's used very appropriately. And then Idris Elba, obviously, as Reed, and whoever the voice actress is for Songbird, all did a phenomenal job with their voice acting and nailing down the character. But overall, the story here is just the writing. The writing's stealing the show. There's a bunch of decisions you have to make that thoroughly changed a lot of scenarios for me personally. And it was actually very rewarding to see how differently things play out based on the choices you make, which is a recipe for a fucking Western RPG, which is what I wanted from the base game. So if they can apply what they did to Phantom Liberty on a grander scale for the sequel with Unreal Engine 5, because there is still some frame hiccups and whatnot when, especially during vehicular combat and you go back into Night City as a whole, I think we're in for a hell of a sequel. But yes, Phantom Liberty is dope, very dope. Obviously, narratively, I was talking about Alan Wake 2 and Baldur's Gate 3 and Final Fantasy 16, all being great too. I don't think Spider-Man 2 should be winning the best narrative here. However, this is going to go between Alan Wake 2, Baldur's Gate 3, Cyberpunk, or FF16. I'm going to give it to Phantom Liberty just because it's interesting to see a DLC expansion get nominated for something. And I guess that comes back to our conversation about should remakes get, if remakes are getting nominees, so should DLC/expansions if they're this big. And clearly Phantom Liberty just did, so I think that's the right move. But yeah, check it out. From someone who's a non-believer in Cyberpunk to what Phantom Liberty is, trust me, it's worth your time and money. The next category we have is Best Art Direction. We have Alan Wake 2, Hi-Fi Rush, Liza P, Super Mario Bros. Wonder, and Tears of the Kingdom. Now, if there's a game, Xbox should be touting more about is Hi-Fi Rush. It's another game I'm going to play soon, and I know it's short, so... but what a surprise release at the beginning of the year by Tango Gameworks, obviously the devs behind Evil Within and Ghostwire. What an awesome surprise, and I love the nod to the O-Day nod the game gave to like older kind of action games in terms of art style and what it represents. I'm gonna give best art direction to Hi-Fi Rush, just because I love the way the game looks and everything they did with it. So Tango, be very proud of yourselves there. Best score in music, we have Alan Wake 2, composer Petri Alanko, Baldur's Gate 3, Borislav Slavov, Final Fantasy 16, Masayoshi Soken, Hi-Fi Rush, Sachuchi Kobori, sorry if I butcher any of these names, and then Tears of the Kingdom, composed by Nintendo Sound Team. This is another tough one. I'm going to give it to FF16 because what I've heard on the composition of that game is very nuts. Best audio design, obviously different than soundtrack works and scores. Alan Wake 2, Dead Space, Hi-Fi Rush, Marvel Spider-Man 2, RE4. I will give this to Alan Wake 2 because, like I said, in terms of visual, game, and audio design, I think that game is pushing it on all fronts. Best performance, we have Ben Starr, Final Fantasy 16, Cameron Monaghan, probably, for Star Wars Jedi Survivor. Interesting to see this game not get nominated for the other category so far. Yikes. Idris Elba, Cyberpunk 2077, Phantom Liberty, Melanie Liburd, Alan Wake 2, Neil Newborn, Baldur's Gate 3, and Yuri Lowenthal from Marvel Spider-Man 2. Again, I am biased. I'm going to go with Idris Elba. Agent Reed is a wonderful character. Wonderful. Innovation accessibility. There's not really much I can touch about this category. It says recognizing software and hardware that pushing the medium forward by adding features, technology, and content to help games be played and enjoyed by even a wider audience. So we have Diablo 4, Forza Motorsport, Hi-Fi Rush, Marvel Spider-Man 2, Mortal Kombat 1, and Street Fighter 6. I know Hi-Fi Rush integrated a lot of cool things into it, if I remember correctly, but so are the rest of the games. This is a tough one for me. I'm just going to give it a Hi-Fi Rush. What do we have next here? Games for Impact, games with provoking provoking thoughts and pro-social meaning messages. We have Space for the Unbound, Chance of Sonar, Goodbye Volcano High, TGA, Terra Nil, and Venba. I'm going to go with TGA. Again, just another category I don't know much about, but I do like to vote from my limited knowledge of some of these categories. Best ongoing, we have Apex. We have Apex Legends, Cyberpunk 2077, Final Fantasy 16, Fortnite, or Final Fantasy 15, my bad. Fortnite, Genshin Impact. It's interesting Cyberpunk is here because it's not really an ongoing game, just more of like a major 2.0 update and the expansion. So I would give it to that, but I would be biased. Apex Legends is not going to give my vote simply because there's still no cross progression in that game, so fuck that game. It's going to have to be between Final Fantasy 15, Fortnite, or Genshin. I always like to give this to Fortnite because they always just keep doing something to that game to make it keep going, don't they? So that's what it gets. Best community support unanimously always goes to Final Fantasy 15 for me, just because they have a kick-ass community managers, and the development team that actually listens. Best independent game, we have Cocoon, Dave the Diver, Dredge, Sea of Stars, and Viewfinder. All 5 of these games are games I need to play. I haven't heard much about Viewfinder, but I've heard a lot about Cocoon, heard a lot about Dave the Diver, and Dredge, and Sea of Stars. Obviously this year, I think independent games didn't take a backseat. It's just AAA actually delivered a lot. And obviously not all AAA games were, the quality they deserved to be or lived up to the hype. But there were enough ones that did, that I think, some of the indie games got overshadowed this year. But nevertheless, I saw a lot of Dave the Diver, rave reviews, same thing with Cocoon and Dredge, and Sea of Stars. I haven't heard much about Viewfinder. I would research more about that game. It's my apologies. But I'm going to give it a Sea of Stars. And I simply do that because this looks like my kind of game. I love the tribute it gave to like the old SNES type of RPG Chrono Trigger love. So best debut indie game, we have Cocoon, Dredge, Pizza Tower, Venba, and Viewfinder. I'm going to give it to Dredge because based on what I've seen, it looks cool. Also, for best indie game, apparently Dave the Diver shouldn't even be a nominee because it's published by Nexon or something like that, if I was reading the reports correctly. So, Jeff, we got to be consistent here, my guy. So, yeah. Best mobile game, we have Final Fantasy Ever Crisis, Hello Kitty Adventure, Honkai, Monster Hunter Now, and Terra Nil. I have no idea. I'm just going to give it to Honkai because if I have any gotcha listeners, you're welcome. Best VR AR. Gran Turismo 7, Horizon Call of the Mountain, Humanity, Resident Evil Village VR mode, and Synapse. I'm going to give it to Resident Evil 8 VR mode. Heard good things about that. Best action game. Armored Core 6, Dead Island 2, Ghost Runner 2, Hi-Fi Rush, Remnant 2. Dead Island 2 is actually another game I played this year. I got a code for it, and surprisingly, it was a fun game. So I'm always going to talk about the games I've played because I can actually fucking talk about them, right? A lot of fun. Probably give the same rating I gave Starfield, like a 7.5 actually for that one. Very, very fun gameplay. Very much better than I thought it would be. Obviously, just the worlds you're in are kind of limited, but they're still sandbox enough. And it was just a fun game. Obviously, it's nothing groundbreaking, nothing going to blow your mind, but it's just fun. So if you ever get a chance to play that game on discount or something like that, which it should be now, definitely check it out. But I'm definitely going to give this to Armored Core, even though it's not my type of game. I think From Software at this point is just like unanimous with action, and they do it well. So that's the most deserving. Best action adventure, we have Alan Wake 2, Marvel Spider-Man 2, RE4, Jedi Survivor, Tears of the Kingdom. Has to be Tears of the Kingdom if we're talking about traversal and puzzle solving. That's what the description says. Best RPG, Baldur's Gate 3, Final Fantasy 16, Lies of P, Sea of Stars, Starfield. So they actually put Starfield into this category, so don't get too mad. But that's the fanboys. I got nominated somewhere. Let's see. Lies of P is another game I want to play. Probably will Game Pass it. But now that I have a job, I'm probably just going to subscribe to the Game Pass permanently. Has to be Baldur's Gate 3, man. I'm sorry. It is what it is. You smell me? You smell me? Best fighting game. I don't have to even look at any of this. It's Street Fighter 6. But just to name them off, so in case you were curious, it's God of Rock, Mortal Kombat 1. Nickelodeon All-Star Brawl 2 somehow made the cut for this, hey? The legibility cut. Interesting. Pocket Bravery, Street Fighter 6. Street Fighter 6 without a doubt. Without a doubt. Best family game, we have Disney Illusion Island, which is a Switch exclusive, I think, that I want to play. Party Animals, Pikmin 4, Sonic Superstars, Super Mario Bros. Wonder. Party Animals is another game I did play, and I actually love this game a lot. I know a lot of people are butthurt about the couch co-op thing. Get over it. It is what it is. But yeah, Party Animals. Best Sim Strategy. We have Advance Wars 1, 2 Reboot Camp, City Skylines 2, Company of Heroes 3, Fire Emblem Engage, Pikmin 4. 3 fucking Nintendo games in this category. So don't be telling me they just make the same franchises and the same kid-friendly family games. Because they obviously got some lot of strategy here too. I'm gonna give it to Engage. I know it's not as narrative heavy or good as Three Houses was, but nevertheless, I know the gameplay is top notch. So I'm gonna give it to that. Best sports racing, we have FC24, F123, Forza Motorsport, Hot Wheels Unleashed 2, Crew Motorfest. This is literally like 4 racing games and just 1 sports game, so it is what it is. I think it just depends on who you ask. Some people love Forza, some people think the Crew Motorfest is good, some people like Hot Wheels, some people like F1. Honestly, EA doesn't really do much with their sports games anymore, but I'm just going to give it to FC24 because I enjoy FIFA regardless. But it's kind of a weak category, Jeff. I'm not going to lie to you, my guy. Best multiplayer. Last year was Splatoon 3, which was hilarious. This year we have Baldur's Gate 3, Diablo 4, Party Animals, Street Fighter 6, Super Mario Bros. Wonder, Party Animals again, because I just love to see the underdog on top. Best adaptation. Okay, here we go. Castlevania Nocturne, Gran Turismo, Last of Us, the Super Mario Bros. Movie, and Twisted Metal. Surprisingly, we have 3 PlayStation productions here. And surprisingly, these are all pretty good adaptations. The only one I have not seen is Castlevania Nocturne, or Twisted Metal, sorry. But I've seen Gran Turismo, I've seen The Last of Us Season 1, I've seen Super Mario Bros. Movie. Honestly, Gran Turismo was the one I was shitting on a lot, seeing the trailers and shit. And honestly, it was actually a pretty good movie. The Super Mario Bros. Movie was not bad. I didn't think it was as good as some people made it seem, but it had some really dope animation to it. But I'm going to go with Last of Us Season 1. The first game is one of my favorites, and I think they just nailed it down to the T. Just great overall. And obviously, it's shot in Alberta. That's my place, y'all. You smell me? So, most anticipated game. Okay, Final Fantasy VII Rebirth. Big one. Hades 2, Like a Dragon, Infinite Wealth. Interesting. Star Wars Outlaws and Tekken 8. It has to be Final Fantasy VII Rebirth. If it's me personally, Hades 2 is up there, but I know it's going to be in early access for a while. Tekken 8 is definitely a fighting game I'm going to get day one. Maybe Star Wars Outlaw, hey? Hey? I'm going to vote for that because I don't love Star Wars and I don't love Ubisoft, but what I've seen from that game so far is just a man who loves open world third person games. It's very promising. So maybe Content Creator of the Year, we have Iron Mouse, People Make Games, Quackity, Spreen, and Cypher. I don't know how they come up with these names. I'm just gonna give it to my boy Cypher, Fortnite legend. You smell me? Best esports game: Counter-Strike 2, Dota 2, League of Legends, PUBG Mobile, Valorant. I always give it to Doty. Fell in love with the Doty. Best esports athlete: we have Faker, Zywoo, Demon One, Hydra, Ruler, Imperial Hal. Let's just give it to Faker because he's the one name that's synonymous with League of Legends other than Tyler 1 that I know. So he's always going to get it. Best esports team: Evil Geniuses, Fnatic, Gaming Gladiators, JD Gaming, Team Vitality. I don't know any of these. I'm going to give it to Gaming Gladiators because they're representing Dota 2 though. Done. Some of these categories, these last couple ones are interesting. Best esports coach: we have Potter, Zonic, Gunba, X2QZZZ, and Hame. I do not see a Dota 2 coach here. So we will go with Zonic. That's Counter-Strike, Team Falcons. Why not? And last but not least, the very last category. Oh, never mind. Second to last. Best esports event. Between EVO 2023 and the International Format, there's the League of Legends World Championship as well. Blast TV, Paris Major, EVO, and Valorant. I'll go with EVO. Because I actually watched EVO this year and the show was fun as hell. And okay, that was the last one. So that was the Game Award nominees for 2023. What did you agree with me? What did you disagree with me with? Let me know. And stay tuned for the last segment called Have You Played This? So this week on the first edition of Have You Played This, I want to talk about a game called Spawn Armageddon. Now, when I was a kid, I played the shit out of this game. And I know it's a rated mature game, so maybe I shouldn't have, but I did. And I wanted to just highlight this game because I don't think it gets talked about a lot. Maybe I'll stream it one of these days, even though no one will probably tune in. But I'm looking at the reviews for it, and it got shitted on by critics as well for saying the action being too basic and repetitive, and the combos described as lame. Now, it could be just with my nostalgia glasses on. But I thought it was super cool, man. I thought it was fast and stylish combat. You get these high breakable items, souls, technique points, comic covers, times, ranks, etc. Kind of what you expect from like a hack and slash game of the PS2 era. You have his agony axe, which is formed by his which is formed by his cape, and can cut through any demon. Obviously, he has his trademark chains as well, and then it can also use firearms. Obviously, it's not as good as like the God of War games or the Devil May Cry games at that time, but I thought it was like a nice alternative. I also feel like Spawn doesn't usually get a lot of love in general, just in terms of when it comes to video game adaptations or movie adaptations. Obviously, the animated series back on HBO is goated, but aside from that, you know what I mean? But yeah, you can use firearms on the stronger demons. There's various hellish powers. I remember the Necroplasm being one. There's also upgrades. You collect the demon souls to buy various amount of ammunition. And then you can upgrade like his chains or his axe or his pistols. You can also increase his health or necroplasm bar. I just thought it was just a very fun game. I remember it being decently long too. It takes about like 12 to 15 hours for a hack and slash. And maybe this is something that maybe I'll explore on stream and maybe I'll change my mind about. But yeah, it was published by, let me check here, Namco it says. Developed by Point of View. Let's see what Point of View is. Point of View is mostly developed NFL Blitz games, actually, Ready to Rumble Boxing. And then they just randomly did Scorpion King Rises, Acadian, and then Spawn Armageddon, and then they just went back to more sports games, which is interesting. But yeah, check it out if you've never seen Spawn Armageddon. I guess it's kind of hard nowadays to get your hands on a PS2 or a GameCube or Xbox. But there is other ways to play. If you know, you know. Or at least check it out on YouTube for the very least. I thought it was a great licensed game. And like I said, this segment's always going to focus on games that that are more unknown or got overlooked or not necessarily like the most critically received. But just nostalgia trips or games that I thought, are worth mentioning, that there's some sort of recognition. So on this week's Have You Played This? Spawn Armageddon, folks. And if there's any games you want to talk about or want me to, be notified about, or that'll click into my brain like, oh yeah, I remember this. Or like, maybe I want to know the game myself and I'd be like, hey, maybe I should check this out and play it myself. Please let me know. And yeah, if you're looking to be a guest on the show or want to come on board and talk, during this segment or anything else, I can tell you what the topics will be and you can come on and shoot your shit with me. Please let me know. Like I said, the best place to find me is on Twitter. I think on my Twitter handle I had to make it something crazy like Digital Downtime Pod. So you can find me there. Or Digital Downtime Podcast at gmail.com. Obviously YouTube comments work as well. You can find me on my personal socials at GillyPG if you want to get any information about regarding to be on the show. Obviously, in the future, I would love to have streamers on here, developers, publishers, whatever the case might be, anything related to gaming. Just talk about gaming. Um, but yeah, I don't know what the specific words are for a podcast. I know for YouTube videos, like, comment, subscribe. But I guess for here, it's make sure you like the podcast, whatever you're listening it on. Make sure you subscribe to it, and make sure you just spread the word about it. Tell your friends, post about it on social media, etc., etc. Just let them know about it. Obviously, this is something new for me. Aside from, if you didn't know, which not everyone is gonna know, I've been making music since about 2008. I've been streaming about since 2020, and I did tackle a podcast previously, but it was more so just like on video, Twitch format interviews and whatnot. So this is my first honest attempt at doing a legit podcast. So thank you guys for tuning in with me on the ride this time. Hope you enjoyed talking about the game of the year more in depth and the other Game Award nominations for this year. New episodes every Friday. In the next couple episodes, we'll be discussing what 2024 means for Xbox, because they might be having a big year. And then we'll also be having an episode particularly focusing on Naughty Dog and what they've been doing for the PS5 generation. And, as time goes on, I'll be telling more about what future podcast topics will be. But for now, for the very first episode of Digital Downtime, thank you for joining me. I go by the name of Prince Gill, aka Gilly. See you next time. Thank you very much.